Hello everyone. Today we'll understand how to choose appropriate library or framework for development. Before proceeding further, let's understand why we are using external framework or library. The external framework or library makes our development faster. Let's say we want to build a web application for let's say e-commerce requirement. In those case, our motto or our problem area is to build the e-commerce application for web. So for that we will not go and develop our own framework for web. Right, because it will be time consuming. So we will go for some of the existing framework or library and we will build our capability on top of that. So that means we can say this external library or framework makes our development faster, or it helps us to achieve our goal. Now there are a few key areas that needs to be verified or while using any external library or framework, and why it is important. If we choose any wrong or any improper framework or library, that can again we can say it will be time consuming, and also it can attach to the cost, means cost can be increased, and it's better to choose the appropriate platform for building any for development. So first matrix is availability of the resource. Let's say resource means we can consider that environment, or we can consider the developer as well. So we want to build one website, but we found that there are several library framework like React.js, AngularJS, which can help us to build. But if there is no React.js, let's say anywhere in our country, in those cases, it will be difficult for us to build the website using React.js. So we will choose for the alternate one. That's why the availability of resource is the most important factor. Now, understanding the requirement and usage, especially while using any library, we need to check or verify that what is the requirement and what is the usage. If it is let's say a very simple use case, in those case, if we unnecessarily use any heavy library, when you are using any library, that means we are saying that we are relying on their code base, we are trusting their code base, and control goes out of hand to their system. So for simpler use case, it's better not to use any library. Next factor is pricing. That there are different types of pricing policies. Pricing can be monthly price, yearly. It can be on user basis. Means per user the price can change. Also, it can change on the usage of or volume of usage. Let's say we can there will be several libraries we can say, or we mention that for 1 million there will be different pricing policy, and for more than 1 million usage or session there will be different pricing. So it's better to evaluate the pricing and before using them. Next is license. It's better to read and understand the license agreement of any library before using. There are different types of license agreements. Widely we can say one category is open source, where we can say we can use the source code freely, and also we can make any change by taking the source code. Some examples of open source libraries, license agreement of those libraries are belong to GPL, Apache 2.0, and there are lot more, or there are several other licenses which are for open source, and some are have, we can say, protected or limited free edition. That means conditional free. You can use it, but you cannot use their source code. So those are conditional, and some are closed environment or private. That means we cannot use or we are not allowed to use their code base at all, or their library at all, without any permission. So those are private libraries. So that's why it's better to understand the license agreement of each framework or library before integrating it. Next is popularity. It is observed that the more popular library have good support for integration and active issue fixes. So how we can measure the popularity of any library? Yeah, the number of downloads or usage of the library, and the number of forks and stars in GitHub. Where the bigger the number is considered as better, and it is generally we is better or preferred that popular libraries are accepted for any development. Then next is compatibility. Some of the libraries can be, or we can say can have good support for some of the recent target or latest target to the market, but whether it is compatible with our requirement or not. For example, for mobile apps, the minimum targeted OS version, those library needs to be compatible with the minimum targeted version, and if it is not compatible, then it can be a blocker. Similarly, we can say some of the libraries have good support for Chrome browser, but if it doesn't have good support for other browsers, then and our requirement, let's say, to build on Firefox especially, means our customer base is in Firefox, then that library can be problematic for our users. That's why compatibility is also another factor. Next is impact on performance of the overall system. So before integration of the library and after integration of the library, what is the impact on performance? Those things we need to verify. Few examples will be build time, whether that increased or not, or it is decreased. What is the impact on screen loading time? Impact on CPU usage, memory consumption. These are some of the examples, or some of the matrices. There are a lot more matrices on performance factor, which we need to always verify while adopting any library. What is the impact on build size or application size? For mobile apps, the APK or IPA file is bundled. Inclusion of generally the libraries increases the APK size, and for customers, every time for them upgradation or installation is means problematic. Like we can say, if the application has bigger APK size, then there will be lots of users who will not prefer to install the app. So it's better to verify the library which is lightweight and fulfill our requirement. Hence we can say which has less impact in increase of application size. Then active support, whether the library has active development or support for any issue fixation. Reason that every day our OS evolves, so few of the platform methods or few of the methods can be may be deprecated or restricted in future. So if there is no active support or development, that can be a bigger or we can measure blocker for our further development. We can say, let's say one library is very popular, but there is no active support or active development since 3 years, and there are lots of things got changed within this 3 years. In those cases, those type of library also can be problematic for our development. It's better to understand the known issues, because there may be some scenario where the library doesn't work well and our requirement may fall under those scenarios. In that case, using the library will not help us. So it's better to look into issues tab of the GitHub if it is provided, and other is just go for the issues and existing issues. Next is release, that active development which we discussed. It's better to pick the stable version instead of alpha or beta releases. Dependencies. Some of the library have external dependency with other libraries. It's better to understand the dependency graph to ensure nothing conflicts or breaks for our existing system. Let's say in our application we are using some networking library which has or the version is 1.1, but the library which we want to integrate, that library also uses the same networking library or maybe some different networking library with different version. So in those cases, there is chances that there will be some conflict at the runtime environment or compile time environment. It's better to understand that, and with minimal change how we can achieve it. Compare with the competitors. So for the same use case, we might have multiple libraries in market. So it's better to compare with other libraries and use the better one. For example, Volley and Retrofit, those are we can say competitors for networking library. Picasso, Glide, Coil, those are for image loading library. So for our use case, which one will be beneficial or which one is fulfills our requirement properly, those things we need to verify. It's not it's better to verify, compare and then use it. Thank you.